When I was researching how to start this the right way, I kept seeing the same advice. Don't bother with an LLC yet, just start selling first. See if it works before you complicate it. You can always do the paperwork later. And honestly, on the surface that sounds practical. If the only goal is to move fast, that probably is the fastest way to do it. But as I started planning this out, and as I spent time listening to people who've been in this space longer than I have, one idea kept standing out to me. In a lot of PokeNE's content, he talks about getting an LLC early. Not as a shortcut to money, and not as a guarantee of success, but as something that changes how you approach this from the beginning. And the way he framed it made me stop thinking about the LLC as paperwork and start thinking about it as a mental line. Before forming the LLC, even though I was taking this seriously, it still lived in a gray area mentally. It wasn't just a hobby, but it also didn't fully feel real yet. It felt like something I was trying, something I was experimenting with, something I could walk away from if it didn't pan out. Once the LLC was formed, that framing changed, even though nothing else had. My store isn't live yet, I don't have customers yet, and I'm still learning and absorbing what actually applies to me. But mentally, it stopped feeling like a side project and started feeling like preparing to operate an actual business. Not one running yet, but intentionally setting one up. That distinction matters, because a side hustle mindset always leaves you an escape route. You tell yourself, it's fine if this isn't perfect yet, I'll clean this up later, once I start selling, then I'll really dial it in. Forming the LLC quietly removes that permission. Not because someone forces you to be serious, but because you know you crossed a line. Once it's an entity, it stops feeling casual. Even before any sales exist, the questions change. Inventory stops feeling like a cool Pokémon product and starts feeling like capital that needs to be protected. Instead of asking, is this exciting? You start asking, is this responsible? Instead of asking, what if this pops? You ask, what happens if it doesn't? That shift slows you down, and that's not a bad thing. One thing I really took away from listening to PokeNE is that getting an LLC early doesn't skip the learning phase. You don't suddenly know everything, you don't avoid mistakes automatically, and you don't become successful just because you filed paperwork. But you do start approaching decisions differently. You think more carefully about sourcing. You slow down purchases. You stop treating mistakes as part of the hustle and start treating them as something to prevent. And that mindset shift happens before sales, not after. That's the part that resonated with me at this stage. Because I don't have customers yet, this phase is less about reacting and more about trying to prevent mistakes before launch, knowing full well that some mistakes will still happen. That means verifying sourcing, understanding margins instead of guessing, being honest about what I don't know yet. Another thing the LLC changed for me is how I approach learning. There's a lot of advice in Pokemon, a lot of confidence, a lot of people telling you exactly what you should do. Forming the LLC made me more selective. Instead of trying to absorb everything, I'm asking, does this actually make sense for where I'm at? And this probably won't be the last time I mention PokeNE. Not because I think one person has all the answers, but because there are a lot of things he's talked about that made sense for me at this stage. Not in terms of results, I'm still early, but in terms of how I plan, how I slow decisions down, and how I try to avoid obvious mistakes during setup. In future videos, I'll probably talk through some of those ideas, not as guarantees and not as advice everyone should follow, but as things that helped me think more clearly while building this foundation. If something helps me avoid a costly mistake before I ever make a sale, that's worth paying attention to. I'm still early, I'm still learning, and I'm intentionally leaving room to change my mind. The LLC didn't make me feel ahead, it made me feel accountable. Accountable to slow decisions down, accountable to document instead of guess, accountable to treat this like something real, even while it's still being built. And that's something a side hustle mindset rarely enforces. My store isn't live yet by design. I could rush it, I could list a product, I could see what happens. But I'd rather take the time now, while the stakes are lower, to build systems, understand risk, and get comfortable with responsibility. Because once you start selling, the margin for error shrinks. For me, forming the LLC early locked that seriousness in before the pressure arrives. Not because I'm operating yet, but because I intend to. And I want the foundation to be solid before anything is stacked on top of it. If you're watching this and you're in a similar place, still preparing, still learning, still deciding how seriously you want to take this, you're not behind. You're early enough to do it correctly. And sometimes that's exactly where you want to be. Until the next video, take care of yourselves. Thank you.